Welcome to Wisdom Grace. This is your brother Brahim M. Kalan. Today I want to talk about the foundational mark of ministry. Be holy. What do I mean by mark? Mark is an indication of something, a clue, a stamp on something, a symbol, a representation, a brand, a sign. Holiness is what you and I should represent in our ministry as a mark. Holiness is our brand in our ministry, because as God is, He desires you and I to be like Him. Let's look at the 3 C's when it comes to ministry. You have calling into God's purpose for your life, service in God's kingdom. You have competence, spiritual gifts given to you to execute God's calling for your life. Now you have character, a state of attribute, a state of being, a quality in you. The foundational characteristic of ministry is holiness. Holiness is always associated with God's divine essence. What do I mean to be holy? It is a character trait, divine attribute of God, godly nature in attitude, in deed, and in thoughts. Lifestyle different from the rest, way of living different from the rest. Your conducts and conversations are different from the rest. Your behaviors and belief system are different from the rest. Your values and views are different from the rest. You are set aside, whole, entire, perfect in a moral sense, pure in heart, temper, or dispositions, free from sin and sinful affections. Applied to the Supreme Being, holy signifies perfectly pure, immaculate, and complete in moral character. And man is more or less holy as his heart is more or less sanctified or purified from evil dispositions. We call a man holy when his heart is conformed in to some degree to the image of God, and his life is regulated by God's word. Hence, holy is used as nearly synonymous with good, pure, and godly. How can you and I be holy? Who is the source of holiness? God is. Leviticus chapter 22 verse 32 says, "You should not profane my holy name, but I will be sanctified among the sons of Israel. I am the Lord who sanctifies you." As God is, so God desires for you and I to be like Him. Be holy. 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 17 nails it to the point. Therefore, come out from among them and be separate. What are the 2 S's of holiness? Separation and sanctification. You are separated, set apart, set aside, come out and be separate. Separation of fellowship and communion. From lawlessness, wickedness to righteousness, from darkness to light, from wrong to right, from falsehood to truth, from impure to pure, from living for the devil to living for Christ, from foolishness to wisdom, from worshiping idol to worshiping God. This is a stage where God selects you. Come out and be separate. Staying among God's people. Staying within the things of God. Let's look at the second S, sanctification. To consecrate, to make holy, to set aside, to render holy. Made or declare or believe to be holy, make pure and free from sin, to cleanse, to purify, to dedicate for holy use. Sanctification is a process to mold you and I daily into the image and likeness of God unto perfection. We are becoming like Him in every area of our lives. Because we read in 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 15 to 16 talks about in all that we do, we should be holy. Holiness is applicable in all areas of our lives. Whatever we do, we have to do it in holiness. You and I, we are dedicated and devoted to holy use, anointed and appointed for holy purposes. Mark of holiness for ministry. What do I mean? a distinct future attribute or trait that separates us from the world. Mark of holiness is what will distinguish us in our service to God. Mark of holiness is our representation of God on earth. Mark of holiness is our divine brand. Mark of holiness is what makes you and I noticeable to God. Mark of holiness is sacred life unto God. Mark of holiness is God's divine attribute bestowed on us. Mark of holiness is where God abides. Service, meaning ministry, equal separation plus sanctification. If you and I go about our ministry, our service unto God, we need to be holy, meaning we need to be separated and sanctified on a daily basis. Because God dwells in righteousness, because God establishes in righteousness. Holiness is our distinction as ministers. As ministers, we should be established in holiness and expand our ministries in holiness. You are your ministry.